Can kettlebell fix you? A single, humble kettlebell as the answer to all your problems. Today, we're going to talk about why the kettlebell can be and also is not the single answer to all of your problems. My name is Chris Butterworth. This is the Healthy Butter Fitness channel. This is the place where we talk about being in our 50s and 60s and fighting off the effects of father time every day, every step of the way. You get older, you get more tweaks, nagging injuries, things just don't work as well. And we don't want that. We want to work as good as possible. I'm 56 years old and I feel great. When I turned 50, I had chronic lower back issues. I had rotator cuff issues. I had elbow issues. I was kind of a mess, and functional fixed me. Functional fitness fixed me. Kettlebell was my primary driver. I then added clubs and Mace and built a functional fitness program. So today I want to talk about kettlebells. I hold kettlebells as a special place, but let's talk about what they do and what they don't do. When you're working with the kettlebell as a single program, you're just getting started, functional fitness, you've never done it before, what is this kettlebell that you're holding? You're probably going to start really small. You're going to start with maybe a two-handed swing, maybe a one-handed swing. You're going to start with probably 5 sets of 5 reps, and you do it on an EMOM every minute on the minute. So you do 5 swings. It probably takes you about 10, 11 seconds, maybe 12 seconds. You put it down, and then you rest for 48 seconds. And then you pick it up and do it again. If you do 5 of those, your entire workout only takes 5 minutes, right? But that's your workout. You don't need to feel bad about it. You don't need to do double duty or triple duty or anything like that. You're doing a kettlebell workout. You did your workout, and it's a success for the day. Over time, you'll go from 5 sets of 5 to 6 sets of 5, 7 sets of 5, 8 sets of 5. You might go all the way up to 20 sets of 5. And your workouts start to get a little bit longer. When you're starting out that 5 minutes, it's a 5-minute workout. You're only doing 5 rounds of about 12 seconds. So you're doing like 1 minute of actual work and 4 minutes of rest. We'll talk about that. As a place to start, it's great. That's where I started. There's nothing wrong with it. Let's say somewhere between 5 and 20 minutes, let's use 15 minutes as an average, and say, let's say you're doing an average workout of 15 minutes. Over time, you're going to add more complexity, you're going to add more intensity, your work to rest ratio is going to go up, you're going to add weight. Your workouts are going to get better and better and more effective over time. But you're starting here. You're starting with a basic workout, and let's say you're averaging 15 minutes. So 15 minutes a day, you're hammering this workout. Is that going to help you? And the answer is yes. Even that 5 sets of 5, that 5-minute workout, you start doing that a couple of times, and you're going to hit parts of your body that you haven't hit in a long time. And your posterior chain is going to start to work together, and you're going to get some balance between your upper body and your lower body and your left hand and your right hand, especially if you're doing one-handed swings. It's going to have an impact. But at a 15-minute clip, if we do some quick math, there are 4 15-minute sections in an hour, and there are 24 hours in a day. 4 times 24 is 96. Let's round up to 100 just for easy math. If you're exercising 15 minutes, that's 1 out of 100. That's 1% of the day that you're exercising. So let's go back to, can a kettlebell fix you? It will absolutely make you better than if you don't do it. If you're not doing any exercise at all and you pick up this kettlebell and you start working through a progression, it will absolutely make you feel better. However, what are you doing with the other 99% of your time? Because that also matters. If you are, and I'm calling myself out in this as well, because there was a time where I was this person, but if you do a lot of sitting, You wake up in the morning and you get ready, and then you go and you sit down and you have breakfast. And then you sit down in your car and you drive to the office where you sit all morning at the computer. Then you go to lunch, you sit in the car and drive to lunch where you sit down and eat lunch. Then you go back and you sit at your desk for the afternoon. And then you sit in your car while you drive home. And then you get home, bam, kettlebell time. Let's go, woohoo, I'm doing my workout. And you're so proud of yourself and you did your workout. I'm a functional fitness guy. And then you sit down and have dinner. And then you sit down on the couch and then you go to bed. You basically worked out 1% of the day was filled with movement and vivaciousness, right? And the other 99%, you sat there and you let gravity and you let Father Time just chisel on you. That's generally bad, right? We're made to move. And so that little kettlebell workout that you're doing is significantly better than not doing it. But is it enough to offset 99% of your life being stationary? I don't know. That's an individual thing. How are we built? How many decades has it been? How does your body respond to exercise? That's going to be individual for all of us. I think if you're able to mix in, functional fitness is going to be your main primary workouts. That's going to be the driver of getting you to improvement. But during the rest of the day, can you mix in some walking, some stretching, some movement, some breaks, 4-hour stretches of sitting at a desk in this hunkered down position, typing, or on your cell phone all the time, neck down, shoulders rounded. Can you break that up? And I think when you can start breaking that up, that's when the kettlebell has magnified effects. So I'm going to share my story, my personal story. I started with these very short workouts. I was doing, I don't think I went all the way down to 5 sets of 5 because I had done some kettlebell work previously before I really zeroed in and made functional fitness my thing. But I probably started as low as like 6 sets of 6, 7 sets of 6. I just dropped my notes, so that's funny. When I was doing that, my workouts were very short, and so I had it on my to-do list for the day. I got to get a kettlebell workout in. I'm doing my functional fitness. I'm going to do it. And I did a 7-minute workout. Done. Workout's done. I was successful today. What am I going to do tomorrow? Let's go back at, let's do that. However, if you look at the rest of my week, I was playing tennis once or twice a week. I was going hiking with my son almost once a week, sometimes more than once a week, sometimes less, but probably once a week I was going hiking. My son also liked to ride his bike, so we would go on the neighborhood trails and go on a bike ride, or sometimes he would ride his scooter and I would throw down my skateboard and I would just go with him. So I'm just cruising the neighborhood doing that. Once I got dedicated into functional fitness and I really wanted movement to be part of my program, I set a timer on my computer. So ever since then, I'm almost through 4 years of this program and I still have it now. A timer pops up on my computer every 2 hours and it tells me to stand up and move. And so I'll stand up and I'll stretch. I'll grab a little piece of PVC. This is a 5-foot piece of PVC. And I could just do some full stretches this way. I can really sit into them and get some good rotation that way. I can get a big stretch on my back that way. So I use this stick a lot. I'll do some shadow boxing, just sitting at my desk and do one way, then go the other way. Going down on the floor, just stretching hamstring. So just standing up, moving around during the day. I started doing that as soon as I started doing kettlebells. And so when I tell my story on this channel and I talk about functional fitness fixed me, and kettlebell is really the fixer because I felt pretty darn good before I even added club. Starting with kettlebell, I went from broken down to feeling pretty good quickly. A few months. It was measured in weeks and months. But I didn't just do 5 minutes of kettlebell or 15 minutes of kettlebell and nothing else. I had some activity already built into my life and I added movement during the day, so I wasn't just sedentary at my desk. Prior to that, I would come into the office and I would start cranking on email, and I host a lot of Zoom calls. I'm on the computer all day long. I could be 4, 5, 6 hours at the desk without standing up. And I did make that conscious change. So let's go back to the original question. Can kettlebell, a humble kettlebell by itself, fix you? And the answer is yes. As your only piece of equipment and your only true workout, absolutely, it fixed me. Is it enough if that's the only thing that you do to change your life? And the answer is I'm not sure. I think that's going to be dependent on each one of us. How often are you doing it? Where are you starting from? How does your body respond to it? How long can you do it? If you're doing it twice a day or 3 times a day, that's at least movement during the day. So I think there's a lot of questions about what else are you doing during the day to have that impact. So kettlebells, for me, life-changing. I was broken down, in a lot of pain, didn't move very well, was 50, but looked and felt and acted more like I was 60 or 70. And then I got dedicated to a kettlebell functional fitness program, and all of a sudden the years just rolled off me, and I felt a lot younger and a lot better fairly quickly. So kettlebells to me are life-changing. However, I think that they need some help. You need to be, when you talk about functional fitness and you talk about movement, it has to be sort of a paradigm, sort of who you become is somebody that wants to move and somebody that wants to function. And so I think kettlebell just becomes an extension of that. It's not that I'm going to be this sedentary, never move person and then jump up and bang out kettlebell. So that's my 2 cents. That's my story. That's how I feel. I think kettlebells are fantastic. And if you're not doing it, you should. If you're doing something else, they can be added to any program. They don't take a lot of time. They don't take a lot of space, and they're not that expensive. I'm 5'9", 140 to 145, and 25-pound kettlebell is my primary. I do a lot of work. I do some work with my 30-pound and some work with my 35-pound. You really don't need to go heavier than that. If you're 190, 210, bigger guy, you might want to start at 35 pounds, depending on how in shape or out of shape you are. But kettlebell, yes, kettlebell is enough as a piece of equipment to completely change your life. But I think you have to make some other changes to your life as well. So hope that makes sense to you. Hope you can take that, add it to your program. If you're just starting out, start working with the kettlebell program and build into it. And I hope it's as successful as it has been for me. Thanks a lot and have a great day. Go get better.